Hi, Stephen Ham from Staccato in Hobart. I'm going to be doing a series of videos over the next few weeks about George Silver's True and False Times. And the reason for this is because they're an incredibly important concept that I believe is not just applicable to Silver's system but applicable to all sword fighting and possibly, although I'm not going to make this claim too strongly, possibly all martial arts. And I want to start by looking at what actually makes a true time. Now, true is, in terms of good, what you should be doing; false, bad, what you shouldn't be doing. So let's just have a look initially at what Silver says at the start of Paradox 14, where he's introducing true and false times. He writes, "Of the difference betwixt the true fight and the false, wherein consisteth the principles being had with the direction of the four governors, the whole perfection of fight with all manner of weapons." So he's saying not only is this a really important concept, but it's arguably the most important concept of all the concepts that he's trying to get across. He goes on to say, "The true fights be these: whatsoever is done with the hand before the foot or feet is true fight." The key to understanding this passage is to understand what Silver meant by the term before. And in a modern sense, we use the word before to mean happening at an earlier time than. Did people in Elizabethan England use the word that way? Well, if we consult dictionaries of Elizabethan terms, we find that no, they didn't. If we look at these dictionaries, we see that the word before means ahead of or in advance of. So really we're looking at distance rather than time, although those two are inextricably related. And a really good example of that usage is in the classic phrase from Shakespeare's Macbeth, where Prince Malcolm tells his men, "Let every soldier hew him down a bough and carry it before him," okay, in front of. Now, obviously, if I'm in something like Silver's open fight and I bring my hand before my body, in front of my body, in advance of my body, then it has to move first. So really, in that sense, moving first and moving in front of, in this instance, mean exactly the same thing. Now, I have seen people interpret it in some interesting ways. I've seen people say, well, if moving your hand first is all that it means, then you could be engaged with somebody and you could pull your hand away, and because you're moving your hand first, that constitutes a true time. Obviously, with this meaning of the word before, that's not the case. Another thing that I've seen is that people have said that the word before means if I do something before something else, I must have completed that thing. So some people have said that you need to actually completely finish your hand movement before you start your foot movement. Now, I actually tried to do that for this video, and I'll show you that now, and I really don't even understand how that could possibly work. So I'll show you that now. I don't even know how that's supposed to work. It's just bizarre. And while I'm about it, I'll show you doing a false time, which is where the hand does not move in advance of or ahead of the body. So here's a false time. So in contrast to what you've just seen with the false time, what happens if you move your hand before the foot or feet, if you move your hand out in front of your body? Firstly, you create a threat, right? The weapon is coming forward, it's creating a threat that your opponent has to deal with. If your opponent doesn't deal with it, they're going to get hit. If they ignore it, the best they can hope for is to get a double hit. Secondly, your weapon is creating a defence. You're basically getting a wall of steel out in front of you. Silver is very specific to say you move your hand first. So you're getting the basket hilt, in the case of his basket hilted sword, and the defensive part of the sword forward early. So it's almost like you're advancing behind a guard. So the two things that you do when you use a true time, as defined by silver, moving the hand out in front of the body before the rest of your body comes forward, is you create an offense that they have to deal with, and you create a defense which can deal with whatever they do in case they're silly enough not to try to defend the attack that you're making. Okay, so what have we seen in this video? We've seen silver's definition of a true time, the way you should attack. The hand must lead the body and the foot. The hand must go before, which in Elizabethan times meant ahead of or in advance of. That means, because of where it's coming from, it has to move first, and in doing so it gets out in front of your body and creates a threat that your opponent has to deal with, and creates a defence in case they're silly enough not to deal with your threat. Thanks for watching.